and he also knew the dab. So, hey, welcome to CEO Chat. My name is Al Cini,
I'm Joe Osamendi.
and we're here today talking to David Bookbinder, who works for Eisner Amper as a business valuation consultant. Nice to see you, Dave. I've known Dave for a long time.
Dave.
Pleasure to be here, fellas. And I got to tell you, the chairs look exactly like they do on television.
Yeah, well, and don't get too used to them. I think they're going to be swapping the chairs out. But I'm glad we had you
really
on
hope so.
before they did.
There you go, okay.
I think that's key. Good. We were talking before the show about some of your favorite television shows, and you mentioned Billions and you mentioned Shark Tank. But what I want to talk about is what you do for a living, which is remarkable, similar in some ways, but really much under the hood. There's a whole lot more to evaluating a business than just the seat of the pants stuff we typically see on television. Isn't that true?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so why don't you walk me through the process of valuing a business?
Yeah, sure. So at a very high level, the folks on Shark Tank, what they're doing in the moment is applying rigor and their experience simultaneously. So basically when they start asking questions about sales and profitability, they're thinking about what the future is going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, valuation is a forward-looking exercise.
Okay.
It's what's the present value of the future benefits of the organization. Usually it's cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
So those cash flows are brought back to today's value at an appropriate rate of return or risk rate. In the case of Shark Tank, the risk is through the roof because you're dealing with really small companies and basically entrepreneurs as management. The other thing that they're doing, and a good way to think about this is if you've ever bought or sold a home, then you basically understand a market comparable approach.
Mm-hmm.
So in the same way you look at other houses and make a determination as to a relative value of a house by looking at, say, price per square foot.
Mm-hmm.
We look at the trading multiples, if you will, of either public companies or transaction multiples that are applied in M&A deals, and then make certain adjustments and apply those to our subject company.
Okay. Now, there are a lot of words in that sentence, and there are a bunch of people out there who own businesses or might be partners in a business. I guess there's a difference between manufacturing and service businesses, and I mean, there are some, but business valuation principles apply in all cases.
Yeah, so there's certain nuances depending on the industry. You know, life sciences, technology may look a little bit different in terms of some of the metrics you think about relative to, say, a manufacturer. But really, at the end of the day, it's really all about the present value of future benefits.
Okay. So if Joe and I are a partner, and we partner in a business, and we're thinking about dissolving our partnership, then an entry point for a professional like yourself is to come in and talk to us about how much it is we're actually splitting up.
Mm-hmm. That's absolutely true, but if I were going to advise you guys, I would tell you should have done it way in advance and put something in place where you have an agreement and a mechanism with appropriate methodologies so that when you get to that spot, because it may not be a friendly breakup.
Okay, it might not be.
Yeah, sometimes in that circumstance people pass away, sometimes it becomes an ugly business divorce. So proper planning in the form of what's called a buy-sell agreement will help you get those principles in place.
Okay, now, before the program you mentioned, you started to tell a story about somebody you worked with in the past who had just decided to dissolve a partnership and walk away from a lot of money.
Yeah, good guy, business owner, had made an agreement to allow his partner to buy into the business, half of the business,
Okay.
at book value.
Okay.
And book value is not equivalent to the fair market value of that business. We tried to help him understand what that really meant.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't want to do it, and at the end of the day, what's going to happen for him is he's going to wind up giving away more of his business for less money than he otherwise should.
Giving away is really the key. He's not selling. He's not really realizing the actual value of the
That's correct.
50% of the company.
Correct.
He's actually leaving a lot of money on the table
Yeah, he
because
is.
he didn't go through what you would have helped him go through.
That's right.
Okay. Now, how expensive is it to hire you? Is it a big investment?
It really varies, but no, in the grand scheme of things, it's not a big investment. It's mere basis points relative to whatever it is that someone's trying to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is, most of the time, people don't wake up tomorrow and say, you know what, I want to know what my business is worth,
Right.
and I'm going to spend 10 or 20 grand to get the answer. What usually happens is they're trying to do a transactional type thing. So they may be trying to raise capital, complete an audit, maybe grant stock options to their employees. Maybe they're even on track to go public. And in the course of trying to do that other thing, their accountant, their attorney, the IRS, or the SEC will typically say, you got to get a valuation done. That's what usually happens.
And that's where you come in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Most of the time.
So that's, I mean, if I decide I want to create a stock participation program for my employees, valuing that stock is not a simple, direct, straightforward process.
Correct.
The number of issues and that valuation has tax ramifications.
It does. It has tax ramifications to both the company and the employees.
Okay.
And I can't tell you, I don't have enough time to get into this, but we spend a lot of our time cleaning up the messes that are left behind by others because they're not doing it properly.
Really?
Or clients themselves are, spitballing things with the back of the envelope.
Okay, that's it. Now, what about in a merger and acquisition situation? Is that another area?
Yeah, we're regularly involved in mergers and acquisitions on both sides of the equation, frankly. So we can help a company in thinking about what either a potential sale price may be if they're the seller. We can help a company figure out what the price would be for a target. And a lot of times we're involved in helping companies allocate the purchase price after the transaction is completed and ascribe value to all the intangible assets that are required to be booked on the financial statements.
Okay, now, we talked about this. Obviously, part of the value of my business are the widgets, like the furniture and the desks and the computers, and those things all have a kind of a redeemable value that you can, but that's the small part of it.
Yeah.
The real value of my company is in my intellectual property, isn't that
In most
right?
cases, that's true. Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about an asset-intensive business, it may be different, but for the most part, yeah, it's the IP.
So if I have a patent or a copyright on a book, then the future book sales are a big part of valuing the business, and figuring out how much
Yeah,
they're going to be worth over the next 10 years.
correct. So it's
Okay.
the customer relationships, you're alluding to that. It could be a trademark or trade name, and it could be that technology asset that you alluded to, whether it's patents or not.
Okay. I mean, these are things that when people are figuring out how much their business is worth and they're coming up with a seat of the pants number, they might completely overlook a lot of that goodwill and a lot of that unique proprietary information that they have that actually makes the company more valuable than it might appear up
That's
front.
the hardest part to quantify, is the intellectual
Great.
property. Yeah.
It's time for our first break. Dave, welcome to the show, and we'll be right back.
We'll be back. All right, welcome back to CEO Chat. You bring us back.
Okay. Well, I'm Joe Osamendi.
I thought I was Joe Esselman.
Oh, yeah, you were. I'm sorry.
I'm
not
Alcini, and welcome back to CEO Chat. And we're having a great time today talking to Dave Bookbinder,
Right.
It's not Joe
who is way better dressed than I am, as
That's okay.
Joe usually is. It's pretty typical.
True, but okay.
Okay,
You
now,
still look good, though.
You're good.
well, thank you. But you're at Eisner Amper, and I understand Eisner Amper was recently recognized.
Yeah, when you say recently, I literally learned about it last night, that we've been recognized as a great place to work in Philadelphia by the Philadelphia Business Journal.
Great, that's terrific. That's great.
Very cool.
That's great. How long have you been at Eisner Amper?
3 months now.
Okay, you just
Yeah, so I
started.
have really nothing to do with that.
Okay, but you're not an accountant. That's not your background.
I'm not an accountant. I'm an MBA in finance, and I've got a designation with the American Society of Appraisers.
Okay.
So I'm an expert in business valuation.
Okay, that's your forte. That's your
Yes.
specialty.
Why don't you describe an ideal client for you in your business? Can you explain that for us?
Yeah, sure. So an ideal client is one that probably reached a point where they have what I'll call a real CFO. They're no longer mom and pop. They've built
Okay.
out a real organization chart, and now the organization's moving on to do some really cool things. So they're going to be attracting, retaining employees, and they're going to start granting stock options.
Okay.
Maybe they're going to be buying a business. Maybe they're thinking about selling their business at some point. They may be doing a capital raise, could be with private equity, and maybe they're even tracking towards an IPO.
Okay.
So it's the middle market, lower middle market, upper middle market, public, private, all industries and all geographies.
Okay.
Okay. Now, inside of a company, who do you typically work with? Who's the executive you spend your time with?
Yeah, I'm typically in the C-suite. Most of the time I'm working with CFOs and controllers.
Okay.
And for the smaller businesses, I'm working directly with the CEOs.
And what advice would you give them for working with somebody like yourself? What do they need to do in order to use your time most effectively?
Boy, that's a really good question. I believe that business valuation is probably one of the most important exercises that a company is ever going to go through. I also believe that the process matters as much as the deliverable. So I'm big on building relationships. I don't think that valuation exercises are one-offs. So I like to have conversations with clients that frankly have nothing to do with valuation, because I can try and find ways to add value in other ways. So it's about being open and just being responsive.
Okay, great. So sometimes, in fact, as a result of your work, a decision is made not to sell the company, even after the valuation is done. That might drive the policy. The information that you gather, the report that you create, might actually change the nature of the transaction that you maybe were brought in to support.
Yeah, entirely possible. Absolutely.
Okay, and that's good. And so you're really as much of a business consultant in these engagements as you are kind of a financial guy.
Yeah, that's how I view myself. I've been in investment banking, and I've worked inside organizations, and if you ask anyone who knows me, you can call me pretty much anything, but if you call me a vendor, that's a problem. I'm not a vendor. I believe that I'm a peer and a partner, and I work collaboratively with my clients.
Well, then that's a good piece of advice for people who might hire you. They have to bring you on as a partner. They have to be open to this as a discovery process, not just as a transaction,
That's correct.
which is really kind of key. And so working with you and valuing my business is going to teach me things about my business that will change the way I run it.
That's a great way to describe it, because there's a ton for clients to understand about their business, especially in the privately held world. So we love working with our public company clients, but a lot of times what we do for them is more or less compliance from their perspective.
Right.
In the privately held business, there's so much that they don't know what they don't know, and we can really help them add a ton of value in understanding what are the real value drivers for their business, how to manage it, and it's an eye-opening process for them. I find that if they go through the valuation exercise, whether it's for the business or their intellectual property and other intangible assets, there's a great chance to learn and really understand the business in a way that they don't otherwise get to see.
In a way that they don't. That's great.
Yeah.
That's really key.
What is, when you work with a client, how do you begin the conversation and how does it flow along? How does it flow along?
Yeah, well, remember, like I said earlier, a lot of times they're coming to me because somebody else told them you need to get that done.
Okay.
So I'm usually in a circumstance where I'm one of 3 names that other trusted advisor provides.
Okay.
And I've been told by clients who work with me that they've selected to work with us because I've asked better questions.
All right.
My favorite is when they just say, I really can't explain it, it just felt better.
Okay.
So that's really good stuff, but it's a collaborative process.
Okay.
There's math that has to be right, there's methodologies that have to be right, but a lot of it is the collaboration and understanding where the client's been, what's the historic financials
Right.
look like, what does the future look like. So it's their crystal ball, our crystal ball, and a lot of rigor that goes on behind it.
Oh, okay, great.
And how long does that take usually?
Well, the good news is I've got a deep team, so if you need something in evaluation and you need it quickly, we can deliver literally overnight.
Overnight?
If need be, but there's a balance there, Joe.
Okay.
Means we throw a lot of resources at it, which means it becomes a much more expensive endeavor.
Right.
Most people find that between 4 to 6 weeks is usually a
Okay.
reasonable time frame to
Good.
get something like that done. Lets us do what we need to do and lets them still run their business.
Well, that you mentioned deep team. You're at Eisner Amper for a reason.
Yes.
What is it that Eisner Amper does that supports you in the work you do?
Great question. Well, the very first conversation I had with them when they reached out to me was, we're a firm of integrity, we're a firm of culture, we're a firm of fit. I said, you got me at hello. You see what I write about, so culture matters.
Well, that's great. We're going to have a little conversation about culture in a bit, but so they're a good fit for you because they believe that the value of people is a key aspect, a key element of the value of a business.
That's correct.
And they're looking for innovative, creative ways to reflect that valuation.
That's right.
To
And they live
spot and identify.
it. I'm there 3 months, but I can tell you they live it.
One of
To
the things-
actually live it.
Now,
Now,
I'm sorry.
they're an accounting firm, so they also provide accounting services.
Yeah, full service accounting firm, so tax, audit, consulting, bankruptcy. Our forensics group is an award-winning group, so fantastic people. But at the end of the day, they understand that they're an accounting firm, and much like with valuation, there's a perception that what we do is a commoditized service. So they understand that it's the people that make the difference. People don't hire the company, they hire the person, and these guys get it.
As
That
we
is
say,
really
people are your problem, they're your solution.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's terrific.
We have to take a break now. We'll be back with Dave in a few minutes.
Great, thank you.
Great.
Dave. Welcome. This is too funny. Welcome back to CEO Chat. This is,
Joe Osmendi.
and I want to be Joe Asamendi when I grow up.
Nobody else
I
in.
don't know how else to put it. My name is Al Cini, and this is Dave Bookbinder for Eisner Amper, works as a business valuation consultant. Just before the break, we talked about how Eisner Amper is an enlightened organization in that they see that there is value in the human equation within business. And David, that's a chance for you to talk about work you do with a LinkedIn group, I think, called the New ROI.
Yeah, it's a LinkedIn group. It started out as one article, and it's grown to a series. It's going to be a book. Great opportunity. I wound up collaborating with about 20 people from around the world on this, and the premise is that people really are a company's most valuable asset.
Right.
Great, and ROI in this case stands for Return on Individuals.
New ROI is return on individuals.
And if they're going to search for that, let's say as a group on LinkedIn,
The new ROI.
the
Return
New
on
ROI will
individuals.
turn up as a group, and they should join. It's an open
Yeah,
group.
it's also a Facebook group as well.
Okay, that's terrific. So they can become involved and learn more about it. There are already plenty of posts up. I know on that group. I've spent some time in it. So So there's already a lot of background
Oh, yeah,
there.
yeah.
And your collaborators, who's collaborating with you?
Well, that's great. So there are folks like Cheryl Hunter, for example, worked with us on a piece on resilience.
Resilience, yeah.
Yeah, so she's the go-to expert. A fellow that I think was a guest on your show, Dave Nast.
Okay.
Mhm.
And I'm going to give you guys a quick plug. Al Cini is actually a collaborating partner as well. I'm talking about brand and culture alignment,
Thank you. It's
which
been a
is
pleasure.
kind of a big deal.
Thank you.
Dr. Janice Presser on teamability.
Mhm.
We've got other folks as well. Marla Tabak, who's an ink writer.
Great.
Ink magazine, yeah.
That's right. And you have an event. You mentioned that Iser Amper is actually sponsoring a panel discussion.
Yeah, so our 7th annual Philadelphia Business Summit is happening at the Union League in October. It's October
Mhm.
25th.
Great.
And if you're a business owner, an executive in the C-suite in any company in the area,
I'll
this is
borrow some
something.
time for that from you, Joe.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
this is a must-attend event.
That's the Union
and
League. It sounds
they've given me an opportunity to moderate a panel, and the panel's actually going to be entitled "The New ROI: Return on Individuals."
That's
And
terrific.
the general theme of the summit is the value that people contribute to an organization.
When is the book coming out?
Man, as soon as I can get the conclusion chapter written, and I have one other chapter I'm working on with a collaborator in Chicago.
Okay.
It's actually the fellow who won the contest to name the series.
Oh,
Okay,
But
great.
he recently changed jobs and was directed elsewhere. So we're back in the saddle and hope to wrap it up by the end of the summer.
Oh,
Good.
good.
That's
Looking
exciting.
forward
That's
to it.
very exciting. I think that'll be a big accomplishment.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Good. So now Iser Amper is all in on this.
Yeah, they are. It's a perfect alignment, Al. I mean, their belief in culture aligns with my belief in culture, and when they learned about this project, when I was talking to them during the process, they just embraced it fully and wanted to know what can we do to help and how can we get that message out there, because they get it. It runs across every business, every company, every industry. It all starts with people, and as we say in the series, at the end of the day, the value of a business is really a function of how the financial capital and the intellectual capital is managed by the human capital.
Right.
So you got to get the human capital piece right.
That's important. And so that whole concept of disengagement, which we read about in things like the Gallup survey that says only 32% of employees are engaged
Yeah.
in the United States, there is real business value in changing that number, increasing that number.
Just think about it. So a third of your employees are engaged. So imagine this: your business is a lifeboat. The 3 people at the front of the boat are rowing diligently. They're fully engaged to get where you need to go to safety. There are 4 people in the middle of the boat who are just kind of looking around and admiring the icebergs.
right,
But there's 4 people at the back of the boat who are trying to sink you.
right.
Really?
That's a great analogy.
Yeah, when you add it up, I mean, that's really it. If
Yeah.
you don't pay attention to the entire crew,
Yeah.
then you're not going to get anywhere in your boat, and that really is kind of the point.
And those people in the middle have to make a decision whether they want to be engaged or not engaged.
That's a really good point. The people in the middle have to decide whether they want to be with the
Right.
engaged crew or they want to, and that's a function of leadership.
Right.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah. Right now, the way the Gallup stats work, they're just looking out the window, looking at the icebergs,
And that's
waiting to
that's
see what happens.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a really great way to put it. Well, that's terrific, and that's the October event and the new ROI group that's on LinkedIn. Is this currently part of your? I was going to ask. I know you're having engagements now with people where you're talking about business valuation, and I've worked with CEOs who've said, engagement. What are we talking about here? I pay them, they get a check. That should engage them. How do
Yeah,
you?
that's a good
How do you? I
question.
mean, because a lot of CEOs out there believe that's the formula for managing people.
Yeah, it's more than just money, and I think most people get that. And it's not just having a foosball table in the break room. It's about a bigger mission. It's about being part of something. It's about consistent leadership and a consistent message.
Okay, so in a staff meeting with the CEO, if that's something that they happen to blurt out, you won't publicly in front of the other C-suite guys call them out, but privately, maybe you'll have a conversation with them about that?
With regards to how they
Yeah, I mean, if they tell you that all they do is pay their people and that should be enough.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because that was kind of the genesis of this whole idea in the first place for the series, Al. I'd walk into a prospective client's office and they'd have a billboard, say, in the lobby area where they talk about workplace initiatives, women's initiatives, things like that, people-friendly type things. And that always appealed to me. And I would chat with them on the way back to their office. They'd close the door. And
Right.
unfortunately, a lot of the time they would say, disregard that, that's just BS, that's not really how it works here. They say it, but they don't do it.
But they don't mean it,
Right.
that's the point, that's what you usually hear.
Yeah.
Well, that's a conversation in itself, we can
Oh,
have
it
that
is.
all day. We're coming up on the part of our program though now, Dave, where you get to tell people out there who are watching why they should call you, what you can do for them, and how they can reach you. There's your camera right there, so go
Yeah.
ahead and make your case.
Yeah. Business valuation or evaluation of your intellectual property is probably one of the most important endeavors you're ever going to undertake. I believe that the process that the client goes through is as important as the deliverable. I also believe that evaluation engagement is an opportunity to build a long-term relationship. So if you'd like to learn more, you can reach me at 267-253-9844. You can also find me on the web. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. And you can also find me on Eisner-Amper's website, which is eisneramper.com.
Well, that was a great minute. A minute well spent.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks for being on our show today.
Oh, my
It was
pleasure.
a
It's good
pleasure talking to you about this.
Thank
And thank you everybody for watching us today on CDO Chat, at Radio Vision, RVN TV, every Friday. This is our 11:30 show.
Great.
I'm Al Cini,
I'm Joe Osmendi.
and what are you going to tell them?
Have a great weekend. Be safe, and please join us next week. Same time, same channel.
Thanks very much, guys.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Dave.
Take care
Appreciate it.
now.